we're talking approximately 1,800 miles. So if somebody tells you to go for a walk on Yonge Street, they're not necessarily being complimentary. The Eaton Centre, just here on the right-hand side. And as we go by, just where the traffic light is, take a look at the main entrance and look in and look up. Right over here, you'll see lovely geese flying in V formation, Canadian geese on the inside. More than 300 shops, 65 restaurants built on 3 levels like the Galleria in Milano in Italy.
That's odd.
And the higher the level, the more expensive the shops. We have lots of city halls in this city, and on the right-hand side, this is affectionately known as the Old City Hall. It is actually the 3rd city hall in Toronto, and when it was built, in order for the architect to get the contract, he gave a very low bid. Well, you know what happens when you give a low bid, right? He went over time and over budget, and people were so angry with him they wouldn't let him put his name in the cornerstone. Now, this is a man with a lot of character. So if you take a look where the windows are recessed, right there on the right, and you look up, you see there's a green line right up at the top, and underneath are little pieces of stonework. They look like teeth. They're called dentils. Well, he had the stonemason hide his name, E.J. Lennox, architect, 1899, all the way around the building. But that wasn't good enough for him. If you walk by here later, look around, not on this front door because it's kind of blocked up because of the scaffolding, but around the side doors, you'll see just above the main door, above the pillars, you'll see circles, and in those circles are faces. Well, you know what the man did? He had those faces resemble the people who were in the city hall at that time. Only what did he do? He made them with their eyes crossed, their tongues sticking out, their ears pointed, or looking positively stupid. There is, of course, one smiling face amongst them, in Chinese. We have the 3rd largest Chinatown after San Francisco and New York City in North America. Take a look right here on the right-hand side and you'll see good old Sir Winston Churchill. You notice what he's missing? No cigar? That's right, because he's in a no-smoking area. Coming up on the right-hand side is Osgoode Hall. Osgoode Hall is the home of the Law Society of Upper Canada. Here's where the first law school was located, and today, if you want to write your bar exams in order to become a lawyer, this is where you would have to still write your bar exams. Well, up until 1866, this whole area was still farmland. And what used to happen was that cows used to get on the grass and destroy the grass. And people got so fed up with it, they put this fence all the way around. Now, what's special about the fence is if you take a look right here, you see the gate. Well, the gate is made out of 4 stationary pieces. And in order to get through the gate, you have to turn 3 times. And the cows couldn't do that. So we call these our cow gates. The architectural style is Georgian architecture. Even though the building was constructed at 3 different stages, they always kept the same style. And as we make our right-hand turn here, if you take a look just across the street on the left-hand side, you'll see a small red brick building. That's the 3rd oldest building left standing in the city of Toronto. Once again, Georgian architecture. In 1972, they actually took that building, put it onto flatbeds, and took it through the city streets to its new location. Canada Life building right beside got tax breaks for donating that piece of property to the hysterical board. And if you take a look on the right-hand side, I got one smile. What you have there is a Superior Court of the province of Ontario, the American Consulate on the left-hand side, the University Club, and coming up right here on the left-hand side is the Royal Military Museum, where the 2 cannons are, the small little building. Now, they just put out a documentary. Anybody, first of all, that has ever been an officer in any of the services is welcome to the Military Institute. You're welcome to go in there and sign the guest register. That goes for men and women. That didn't always used to be so, but today they actually do allow women in there. And the cockpit of the plane that was used by the Red Baron is in there. We've always said it was a Canadian who shot him down. And now they've put out this documentary. It's never been proven that it was the Australians who put it down. So I'm still going to say it was a Canadian who shot it down. Patriotic me. Down the middle of the street, you notice there are 12 gardens that are beautifully landscaped all summer long. It's because this city is really a people's city. We have green spaces so that this is a very high density work area. People could go and just sit down there in the summertime and enjoy their coffee and a newspaper. On the right and on the left, coming up, are 5 major hospitals. On the right hand side, the first hospital is the sick children. On the roof is a helipad, easily used by all of the hospitals because they're all joined by underground tunnels. The Sick Children's Hospital just added a huge wing about 5 or 6 years ago, and when they did that, it made it the second largest children's hospital in the world, the largest being in Sao Paulo in Brazil. They have an amazing burn unit in there. When you go in, everything is so geared to children so that it's not frightening at all. Because as we all know, going to the hospital is a stressful experience, and they've really gone out of their way to try and de-stress it the best that they can. We do have Medicare here. So as a result of all these hospitals being joined by tunnels, if one of these hospitals has a very expensive piece of equipment, all you can do from one of the other hospitals is book time, put your patient in a wheelchair, wheel them underground, keeps the cost a little down. Mount Sinai Hospital here on the left-hand side, the new addition to the Toronto General Hospital just here again on the right, and the last of the hospitals is the Princess Margaret Cancer Research Hospital, cutting edge of cancer research technology. A lot of firsts in these hospitals. First single and double lung transplant performed here, and the first successful elbow transplant. If you take a look at this building here on the left-hand side, the one with all the windows, window washer's nightmare. Are they out there today? No, they're not out there today. Well, what's different about this building? There's no conventional heating in that building. Health territories. 10 million people actually live in the province of Ontario. 2.3 million, as I said, living in this city. The building itself, Romanesque Revival architecture. This building was constructed in this style at a time when in Europe they were no longer using this architectural style. But we wanted to give the illusion of stability, and we did that through architecture. Anybody like to get off and take a photograph? If you take a look just in front of us, what you will see is the University of Toronto. The University of Toronto is the largest university in Canada. 53,000 students attend the university. Amongst those, 28,000 would follow a full-day curriculum. If you were to attend this university, you must have an A average to even apply. So the standards are very high and very difficult to get in. But because we are subsidized by the government, school fees for 1 year for an undergraduate arts or science course would be $4,000. For North America, that is very inexpensive. Especially if you wanted to go to one of the Ivy League U.S. universities, you would be paying at least 10 times that amount to attend a university of a similar caliber. So if you take a look now, you get a really nice view on the left of the Parliament building. They're doing the exercise they're doing there usually is not Tai Chi, but something else called Falun Dawn, and that is outlawed in China.
Oh, right.
No, not here. The buildings we see on just along here on the right would still be buildings that we would be associated with our provincial parliament building. The city of Toronto is the capital city of the province of Ontario. On Friday, we're going to be going through Ottawa for those of you who are in my group, and we're going to be seeing the capital of Canada and the parliament buildings there. On the right-hand side, it used to be very trendy at the turn of the century to live near the university. And in this house right here on the right-hand side, there used to live a parliamentarian. And he introduced a temporary tax to pay for World War I. Now, either Canadians do not know what the word temporary means, or World War I was very expensive, because we're still paying that tax, and it's called income tax. Today, if you were earning $150,000, which is a good salary, $62,000 off the top of that would be going to the government. 54 cents plus of every dollar we earn, one way or another, goes to the government. On the left-hand side, that would be the law faculty and the law library. On the left and on the right, coming up, are three of our, actually two, because the third one is just closed for renovations at the moment, two of our major museums. On the right-hand side is the Royal Ontario Museum. The Royal Ontario Museum has the largest collection of Chinese artifacts anywhere outside of China. It has a wonderful dinosaur exhibit. It has a bat cave that's a lot of fun. Besides that, it has a whole Middle Eastern exhibit, including a mummy. Now, they x-rayed the mummy, and archaeologists blow my mind because they can tell you that it was a 15-year-old princess that is mummified up there in that gallery, as well as traditional things. Now, on the left-hand side, the very small church that you see is the Church of the Redeemer. Church of the Redeemer sold its airspace to the building all the way around, because we have density laws here, and when the building went up, it didn't have enough square footage to go up as high as it needed to go. Now the church cannot make any external changes, but with the money it made, it was able to redo the church as well as start many community services. The street we're on right now is affectionately known as Mink Mile. This is the 16th most expensive street in the world. Here's where you're going to see things like Tiffany's, Cartier, Chanel, Max Mara is there, Benetton, Louis Vuitton. So this is a nice little area if you want to go window shopping. Chapters. New concept started here about 7 or 8 years ago. Big major bookstores with comfortable reading chairs in them and coffee shops. So it makes it really quite inviting to go in there. And their psychology works, because more than once I've gone in with a few minutes to spare and just picked up a book and started reading it, got hooked, and had to buy the book before I could go out. Roots, that's very Canadian. So if you want to bring back something Canadian, you might want to get some nice clothing that says Roots on it. Or for ladies who wear makeup, MAC. M-A-C is another Canadian product. And that was started actually right in the store along here by two young men who did theater makeup. And from there it's developed, and the level of makeup is very good. Now, just to give you an idea where you were, 1960s, the hippies moved in here. And I'm told you could have been happy just walking down the street. In the 1970s, a man by the name of Richard Wookey started to buy these houses along here and turn them into boutiques and restaurants. Today, if you have enough money, you can find anything you like. On the left-hand side, this little tiny house, that's where the first jail was. There are a lot. Now, if you're going to go to the Trou Normand, you usually have to take out a second mortgage on your house. You're probably talking $100 a person minimum a meal, and that's without any wine or spirits. But there are other restaurants around here that are very good and very reasonable. There are a couple of Japanese restaurants along here, Italian restaurants on the left, and a Movenpick just ahead. Can you get by that moving car? You can't get mine. The square mileage of the city of Toronto is 244 square miles, or 635 square kilometers. So it is quite a vast area that we're going in the city itself. It can take you sometimes 2.5 hours to get from one end of the city to the other. Do we have Londoners on board? Okay, so that's nothing for you guys, right? And I remember once I was driving and I was going around Manchester, and I think I spent 3 hours just trying to get into the city, kind of going around and so that was really something. I was saying before I picked up the rest of you folks that I live in the northern part of the city, and when I left my house this morning, there was a blizzard. I mean, a real blizzard, white out. You couldn't see where you were going. If you look up on just to the top of the hill there, anything north of that is where the blizzard was, and as soon as I hit the top of the hill and started coming south, there was sunshine. So I know it's hard to realize that, but that's the truth. You can be sure it's going to be small. You're going to have to redo the plumbing and the electricity, and definitely you're going to have to redecorate. This little house here on the left-hand side, a private family home, it is more than 10,000 square feet. Marina, you have a house here, right? Always bus drivers live here. Tour guides live right next door, of course, right? No, seriously, who lives in this neighborhood? There are doctors, our lawyers, our professional people, our politicians would live here, as well as our big industrialists, like the person who owns the McDonald's franchises. He has a house here. The Eaton family have several houses in this neighborhood. The Weston family, that's where the Queen Mom used to stay when she came to Toronto, was just a block away from here as well. You'll notice the houses are quite close together. The reason for that, the formula. The formula for taxation includes the frontage of the property. So the properties were made narrow and deep. And coming up on the right-hand side is Upper Canada College. It's a very prestigious boys' school. It's here in kindergarten that the Old Boys Network begins. If you were to send your child to school here, you're talking, the latest I heard that the tuition has gone up to $40,000 a year. And if your child were to board here, you're talking about another $6,000. But you do know that when your child has graduated from this school, Not only has he taken part in the debating society and in the math club, but he's also had to do all types of athletics, including learning how to play cricket. And cricket is not a very popular game in Canada at all. Actually, I was listening to the radio this morning and there was some cricket competition and Canada won the match. So that's my bit of information. I haven't got a clue who they were playing, but they won.
Sri Lanka. Nice, aren't they? In the middle of the park. Do you want them? Yes, please. Security on it though. Yeah. Still got 25 minutes left. Oh, that one over there. Shit. Press the wrong button.
If you take a look just ahead of us on the right-hand side, the stone house with the half timber at the main entranceway, that's one of the Eaton family houses. And this is the front of the house, and as we go around to the back of the house, in my opinion, it's just as pretty as the front. A private family house for himself and his wife. 98 rooms, 30 bathrooms, 25 fireplaces, 3 bowling alleys in the basement, an indoor firing range of 125 feet. He did have one son, and the son never lived there. He was estranged from the family. And if you take a look right here on the right-hand side, where you see those turrets, that was where the stables were. He built the stables first, 30 rooms up on top. He loved his horses. All the stalls were made out of mahogany. The troughs were made out of porcelain. He had the windows built at an angle so his horses wouldn't catch a cold. And special tiles put down in a certain way so the horses wouldn't trip. And when one of the horses had trouble with his teeth, he had a set of wooden false teeth made for his horse. He had a fortune of, it's called Casa Loma, or House on the Hill.
Wait.
Let me tell you a little bit about the real estate. More than 20 years, no, actually more than 30 years now, they've been putting street signs. So here you can see all the street signs are both written in English and in Chinese. That's a Chinese neighborhood. We're leaving that Chinatown and we're going right into the main neighborhood, the main manufacturing neighborhood, and you're going to quickly see the street signs changing. You take a look on the left-hand side here as we cross over this street. This is known as Queen Street West. This is our answer to Soho. It's where, if you go along there, you'll see where a lot of the younger people hang out, by the types of shops that they have along there. There are also many lovely restaurants along Queen Street West as well. And this as well, it's, I would say, a 20-minute walk from your hotel. Look on the right-hand side here, the big thimble, just here on the corner. And if you look at the street signs, they say Fashion District, and they're all color-coded. Depending on the color of the street sign, depends what type of merchandise are being manufactured in that area. A lot of the manufacturers and importers have outlet shops along here. So if you know your prices, you can get really good bargains along here. Same type of merchandise that will be sold in high rent buildings would hurt the trees. The double-decker trains that we see on the left-hand side, they're the GO trains. GO stands for Government of Ontario. They're commuter trains and they go 35 miles outside of the city. It would cost you to the furthest point $15, but if you were to bring your car in to park it here, you could pay $24 and up to park your car in the downtown core. Also, you don't have to worry about traffic as you're coming in to work. A lot of people look for that time to do a little bit of extra work now on their computers, read a book with a newspaper, so it's a good veg-out time. And if you're coming in from the outskirts, unless you leave early enough, sometimes it can take you 2 hours to get into work. Where you see that high netting, that's a driving range. You come back here in 4 or 5 years from now, this whole area is going to be redone. Harley-Davidson in here as well. Oh, that looks like a brick one with those doors. Fancy sports car. It's a Lamborghini? Wow. Pretty nice. So as we slow down here, you're going to get a nice view of the skyline. You see the CN Tower, standing for Canada's National Tower. It is the tallest freestanding structure in the world, 1,815 feet high and 5 inches, or 553 meters high. It was built originally as a communications tower. Our radio and television transmitters are up there, as well as a revolving restaurant, a nice bar, and an indoor and an outdoor observation level. And if you go up there, the one thing that's the highlight is a number of years ago, they've taken out part of that floor and they put in glass blocks. Even if you can't stand on it yourself, it's worth it to go there and watch other people try and stand on it. Because when you stand on and look down, you're looking down 1,400 feet. And just ask if that gives you a rush, if that gets your heart rate going. Woo! The first time I did it, it was really, really something else. And you still see people who go there and will not stand on it. They just look over and they panic. But it will hold 8 elephants. So as much cake as you ate last night, you can't go through. If you're going to go to the revolving restaurant, the 360 restaurant, if you go there for lunch, it'll probably cost you between $25 and $35 a person for lunch. But if you were just going to go up to the observation level, you're talking $17. So if you need to rationalize it, you're not paying for elevation if you're going out for lunch. So just take off that $17 and the rest is what you're paying for your lunch. After your lunch, walk down 2 levels and you'll be at the level of where the glass floor is. You must make a reservation if you are going to be going up there for lunch. If you're going to go there for dinner at night, you have to count anywhere between $50 to $75 a person, pretty much minimum. They were such bad pilots, they thought they were going to try and land right on Yonge Street sometimes. Here you have the inner harbor of Lake Ontario, and the very first island that you see is the Toronto Island Airport. That was supposed to be the main airport for the city of Toronto. The islands, they were once a peninsula, and this was one of the 3 reasons why the governor moved the capital city from Niagara-on-the-Lake to this location, because of this natural harbor. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but I just wanted to take a look on the left-hand side, this wonderful condominium building. If you see it in the distance, as the sun reflects off of these rounded windows, it looks like water cascading down. This is the most expensive condominium building on the waterfront. One apartment in that building would run anywhere between $2 and $6 million. And you would get a boat slip right in front of the building. Not the boat, mind you, just where to put it. So let me tell you a little bit about these islands. They were created because where we are located now is directly opposite the Niagara River. And the currents coming right across the river brings and deposits sand all along here. And over the years, this peninsula was built up. In the 1850s, violent storms broke up this peninsula into islands. 65% of these islands today are animal or bird sanctuaries. There are still 2 communities that do have housing on them, and the rest is public parks. There's a lovely zoo out there and a great picnic area. An antique market here on the left-hand side, open from Tuesday to Sunday, from 11 in the morning to 6 in the evening. Our new harbor fire station, and if you come here in the summertime and wanted to go to a trapeze school, this is a trapeze school just here on the right. Boating and sailing school just here on the right-hand side. And where you see the green roof building with the tower, that is the Marine Police Station. So the inner harbor is kept open all winter long. There is an icebreaker there if it should freeze over, because there is a ferry boat that goes back and forth. If you happen to be in the inner harbor and you are piloting your boat and you are under the influence of alcohol, not only will they fine you, they will take your driver's license away from you as well. Back in 1972, the federal government bought 3 have their studios, followed immediately by the power station. In the power station, that's where they used to cut ice from Lake Ontario and store it, because this next building just beside us on the right-hand side used to be a cold food storage terminal, and they would use that ice to keep the storage terminal cold. Well, back in 1972, they tried to knock this building down. They used up the entire demolition budget and were only able to knock down one corner because there was so much reinforced steel in this building. So they had to take it, look at it a different way. So what you have when you go there now, and it's a lovely place to shop, you have 2 levels with lovely shops, and the 3rd level has a dance theater. Above that, you would have offices, and on the very top level, the city really grew up after the 1970s. The Royal York Hotel just in front was the 2nd tallest building in the skyline in the 1970s. On the right-hand side, the Air Canada Centre, that's where our hockey team and our basketball team would play. Well, just behind these trains and all across, if you look on the left, you see a glassed-in walkway that will take you from the subway station all the way over to the CN Tower and Sky Dome on the left. On the left-hand side, the yellow brick building that you see is a hotel, and beside the hotel is our main convention center. So you could come in by train, go underground over to the main convention center, or the hotel, go to your conference, go to underground shopping, never have to go outside the whole time you're here. The main train station on the right-hand side, that was finished in 1929. Every time we built a new train station at that era, we had a beautiful hotel on the other side. And if you still look on the left-hand side, look at the wonderful street art. City people just here along this building. See the ones on the top spinning around in the wind? They're known as city people, done by a Montreal artist by the name of Catherine Widgery. We have 5 chartered banks in our country, and they all have their head offices or executive offices here. The Royal Bank Plaza put $250,000 worth of gold dust in those windows. If one of those windows were to break today, $1,800 to replace it. And still on the left-hand side, this is known as BCE Place. And look, this is a whole city block. Calatrava, he enveloped the space with glass and steel, as you see on the left-hand side, and created an indoor street that goes the whole length of this city block. You have a nursery school here, and this is the Hockey Hall of Fame, just on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you have the Hummingbird Center for the Performing Arts. This is where our opera company and our ballet company perform. And right in front of us on the right-hand side, brutalistic architecture, you have the St. Lawrence Center for the Arts. Lots of things to see around here as we come into the original 10 square city blocks set up by John Graves Simcoe, the first governor. Take a look on the left-hand side at the far end of the park. You'll see that there's an optical illusion. The mural on the building, only the windows in the middle are real. It represents a billowing curtain tying in the more than 42 little theaters that we have in this city. We are the third largest English theater center in the world after London and New York. The building that it's mounted on is known as our Flatiron Building. When this was built in 1892, the elevator went up 4 stories high, the then tallest elevator in the city in all of Canada. So here we are now, and look on the left-hand side how they divided these 2 buildings so they wouldn't cut out the view of St. James Cathedral. Now we're going to do our first stop. I'm sure you're all ready to stretch your legs, and some of you might want a coffee in or a coffee out. So this will be a little bit of a